Hello everyone, welcome back to episode number 7 of the Tune In Podcast. And today it is reverting back to our weird and wonderful themes collection of various different ideas and songs with certain themes in a title. And what is the theme for this week, I hear you ask? Well,
the theme this week is numbers. Numbers in the titles of the songs. Harry picked the theme this week, so if you don't like it, take it up with him.
Oh, really? Come
I'm
on.
joking.
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
I did pick the theme. But yeah. So that's our main theme for this week. Where obviously we have our top 5, and we have a very interesting question actually sent in by Maddie. So thank you very much for that, as well as, of course, what songs we have been listening to over the past week. Again, we apologise for this going up a little bit later than normal, but we encountered a few, again, scheduling issues as well as heat problems, shall we say,
Yes.
with the temperatures at the moment. We're currently recording in about 32, 33 degrees heat, so again, we apologise if there are any problems with the recording and stuff like that, but we promise that we will be back to normal by this next week, kind of thing.
Sunday.
But yeah, we will
Yes.
we will upload a new episode on Sunday. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
So, without any further ado, we are going to start with Sarah's answer to the theme.
Okay, so my first piece is, I actually mentioned last week a Studio Ghibli piece. However, I'm doing another one. Don't hate me. But it's a different composer, so I think I can get away with it. This one's called One Summer Day, and it's by Joe Hisaishi. I'm very sorry if I completely butchered that.
You have a problem with pronunciating names over the last couple of weeks, I've noticed.
Honestly, I think the heat's getting to me with this one. I just can't think of how to say words at the moment. I do apologise.
Yep.
But it's from Spirited Away, which is arguably the most popular Japanese animation film that there is by Studio Ghibli. This film was released in 2001, and it's, as I mentioned, a Japanese animation film about Chihiro and her family who discover an abandoned theme park, and Chihiro walks around and starts to realise that actually it's not quite right, and turns out it's been inhabited by the spirit world, and they've taken her parents, and she has to get them back by working in this bathhouse for spirits. It's all a bit weird, but it's very charming and very endearing. It's a very lovely film. But the music for it is very sort of, it has the magical theme that goes with the film, as it's a, not a real film. It's like a fantasy film. That's what I'm trying to get at. So the music goes along with that, being very magical, dreamy, ethereal. This piece specifically is at the very, very opening of the film, where they're driving in the car. They're basically moving house, and Chihiro's not happy about it. She's like, I miss all my friends and stuff, why are we even moving anyway? Just before they discover the abandoned theme park. And I think it sets the tone for the film quite nicely, and the opening theme recurs within the music as well, and then also is in a reprise at the end.
Yeah, it definitely feels like you're on a journey with
Yes.
this song. That's what I felt. I also felt like I could definitely imagine it as a kind of video game crossover. And I saw the opening half of the piece as something that could work in something like Animal Crossing, and then the second half as something like Mario Galaxy. I don't know why,
Yeah.
but as I was listening, I can definitely hear not the clash, but a combination of the two.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not necessarily the sound of the instruments, obviously, but because the Animal Crossing and Mario music, more Animal Crossing tends to be more electronic based, but definitely the themes used and the harmonies and stuff used in it could be used in a video game per se. And I think it, not necessarily action scenes, maybe the opening credit scene of a video game,
Yeah.
a nicely animated video game. And I guess because the video games you mentioned are also Japanese, I wonder if there's a link there as well.
Possibly they might have taken something, and that's maybe where my question came in. It's what era or genre do you think this has the most influences from, because I picked up, let's say, like video game crossover music. I also picked up on like jazz with some of the chords that were used, and then or chord sequences, and then maybe minimalism with the kind of repetitive cell, but also with an expansive orchestra.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. A lot of the music so Joe Hisaishi did a lot of the music for the Studio Ghibli films, apart from My Neighbours the Yamadas, which we mentioned last week. And they all have that similar style. I think that's his style of composing, that sort of it draws on a lot of the previous music for, I think, Japanese film and animation prior, and potentially minimalism and things that have come out of Japan, but I don't think necessarily the sort of Western music. I don't think it would tie into the Western minimalism things, like forgotten every single minimalist composer's name, but yes.
But also as much as like a Western ear, like mine, for example, might pick up. Like, again, it's all like I don't want to say regionalized, but like my Western ear will pick up something completely different from the ear that the composer, whose name I'm not going to pronounce just in case, might have. Joe. So Joe, yeah, big up Joe. Yeah. But like the ear that he might have, it will obviously be different from mine. So I guess that he will probably take it from different types of Japanese music perhaps, but then my ear thinks, oh, this sounds like minimalism.
Well, yeah, I think I don't know much about Japanese music, but what I do know is they have they obviously don't use the same Western tonal scales we do, but I think this has done to sort of appease a world demographic, if you like.
Yes.
But the chords are very distinctive, the harmonies are very distinctive, and I think there is some element of not minimalism, but a repetitive nature to Japanese music. I don't know enough about it, but from the bits that I've heard, that's what I've picked up on. So now I'll move on to my second song, and it's probably it's from my favourite Disney film. Not surprised that it's Disney. And the song is One Jump Ahead.
We have to bring this up pretty much every week, don't we? We have to bring this up every week.
I mean, I haven't mentioned Disney for a while, actually. I don't think.
Actually, yeah, you haven't. This must be a record.
I know. So this song is One Jump Ahead, and it's from Aladdin. The music for Aladdin was written by Alan Menken. So this version that I've chosen is the 1992 version, performed by Brad Kane. However, there's obviously the new live-action version from 2019, from last year, that was performed by Mena Massoud. And there's also the musical version, the Broadway version, performed by many different people. However, this version, the original, is, I think, the best. The way that he's changed it, in my opinion, hasn't necessarily been for the best. So this scene in the film, in both films and the stage musical, it sort of introduces Aladdin's character as like this lovable thief, and he's got a bit of a reputation in the market, and he always has to say one jump ahead or one step ahead of the like police type people in the film.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of the music, it's lyrically very, very clever, and there's a lot of jokes in it that there's one line that they say in it that I didn't get till like maybe last year, and I can't remember what it is now, but there's a lot of like clever, witty jokes in there, and also the fast-pacedness of the music, and the melodies used obviously fit with the Middle Eastern setting, but the fast-pacedness, chromatic runs like fit Aladdin running around the market and trying to evade capture. And the very, very ending, when there's the massive chromatic descending passages, is when he's literally jumped out of a window and he is falling. So I think that fits perfectly with the music and with the...
Yeah, that makes more sense. Truth be told, I have not seen all of Aladdin.
The opening?
I've not seen like Aladdin that much. I don't think I've seen the whole film as a whole. for whatever reason, I've just don't give me that look. I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay.
We'll try and contain Sarah's rage. But it's like obviously, like, for me, it's all right. It's all right. It does the job. It does the job as well as it can. I presume that the instrumental interlude in the middle is this kind of like dance interlude, or is it more Aladdin running around the town?
Yeah, it's to give a bit of, I think there's a bit of dialogue in there, maybe. If it's not, there's definitely like just general market rabble, and he is literally just legging it. I mean, there's probably a better term for that, but he is just bolting it down the road, and there's people chasing after him. Yeah, so there's that. It's not on the stage. However, I'm not sure about the film. I haven't seen the live action film. It is my favourite animated film, so I don't want to ruin it. So I haven't seen the live action. I have been told it's very good, but you know, I will watch at some point. But anyway, yeah, in the stage musical, there's a longer musical interlude section where they are dancing, and it's a very clever sort of dancing scene where he is evading capture. But in the film, it's just running around.
Okay, that definitely makes more sense when put into that kind of context, because when you all of a sudden, like, for someone who is a heathen and hasn't seen the film,
yeah.
and like you hear this interlude in the middle, my brain automatically went to, did Disney really have to do a dance interlude for no reason whatsoever? Yeah, like, how many songs did Disney do that have a dance break in it? Like, there are so many.
I mean, name one.
Okay. This is where
they normally have interludes in the middle for extra dialogue or extra action scene where they're not singing because they are running or fighting or something. There's not many like dance breaks apart from probably live action, where it's more of a spectacle.
Okay, maybe that's my stereotypical brain, or stereotypized brain, if that's not a word it should be. But that's maybe my kind of stereotypical perception of Disney's, that I hear this instrumental break and I just think, we have to do a dance break now, do we? Oh, brilliant. Okay, but you know, that's just my.
I think
my
you're
fault.
maybe thinking in generic terms with musicals. Maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
But
probably.
Like in terms of Disney, when it's animated, they don't need really a dance break unless it's relevant to the film.
Okay, this song is now redeemed. This song is now
redeemed.
Yeah,
as it should. I don't know how much of the lyrics you could hear, but like they were pretty.
There's some.
They sort of, I think they set the scene quite well. For as Aladdin.
I got one jump ahead.
Yeah.
I'm
trying to think of something
others
that might pay. Well, one of the lines he says, "I steal only what I can't afford," and that's everything.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of lines that are repeated, like "scoundrel." He's like, "Stop thief." But they're like repeated by the chorus throughout as Aladdin singing over the top as well, which I thought was quite good. So yeah, I will move on to my third song now, and this song is a song I heard actually a lot more recently than obviously it was released. It's a song called Edge of 17 by Stevie Nicks, and it was released in 81. I guess a lot of songs are released maybe in like 70s, 80s that we tend to like, being born after that era, are songs that we grew up listening to generally, or like songs we grew up listening to and then sort of broadened out from that. But this is a song that my mum hadn't even heard. For some reason, it's like, I know this song, and I don't know why I know the song, but I do know this song, and I like this song. But what I didn't realise is because I knew I liked the lyrics, and they were like highly metaphorical and sort of representative of something, but I didn't know what it was until I looked it up. And the song expresses her feelings about her uncle's death and John Lennon's murder within the same week of each other, so she was obviously experiencing a lot of grief at the time, because it was her manager / lover who knew John Lennon, so that's sort of where the link was, and he was not consolable. Inconsolable. So there was to deal with that as well, and then she also was dealing with her uncle's death and was with family at the time, and wrote this with her highly metaphorical lyrics to sort of get her grief out in a song, which is a lot sadder than I thought it was when listening to it. But I just really like the sort of, obviously I didn't know the meaning behind it, but there was a lot of passion behind it and a lot of soul put into it. You can tell that just by listening to it. And I also just really like the guitar just throughout, the sort of chugging guitar riff throughout. And I guess the only other song I can think of that in is like Eye of the Tiger, which has a very different feel to it. But
yeah, it's okay. I didn't mind it. I just thought, like, it's similar to a song, I can't remember which one it was that we had a few weeks back. I could be completely wrong with this, but it does go on for a while.
It's a long song.
And so my question back, again, it's a similar one to what you asked a few weeks back. What, like, keeps you interested? Is it the guitar riffs? Because after a while, they do become a little bit jarring for me. Well, not jarring, but a bit tedious when it's the same note over and over again.
Yeah, I do get that.
Is it maybe the lyrics or the message?
I just looked up how long the song is. It's 5.5 minutes, so it is a long song to sit through. And like, I know I mentioned, I'm going to contradict what I've said over the past few weeks about long songs and them having to be constantly changing for me to enjoy them, because this one is, I'd say it's more progressive and more the stuff that you maybe liked and then I said I didn't like and got bored of. But I think what keeps me listening to it is partly the lyrics and me trying to work out what the lyrics actually mean. A combination of that and her voice. I really like her voice for some reason, the sort of raspiness.
Yeah.
Almost when she goes up into the high registers, almost shoutiness of it. I just really like it.
Yeah. I love Stevie Nicks' voice. I mean, have you heard the Fleetwood Mac album Rumours?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, she's excellent on that. I loved her performance on that.
Yeah. I've been trying to get a Fleetwood Mac song in, but I can't seem to work in one that I know well enough into any of the themes that we've had, so stay tuned, I might mention this Fleetwood Mac song. But I managed to work in Stevie Nicks, I'm pretty happy about that.
I don't mind like long songs personally. Again, if there's got to be like some kind of progression to it, and like as much as I do love Nix's voice, there is kind of a thing in me that just thinks like, how long can the guitar go on for before it does become a bit samey? Like if it was like a, maybe like more than one note sequence, I could maybe gel with it a lot more, but it is just the fact that it is one note repeated all the time, and that was what I thought was a bit of a turn off by the end. It
did change with the chords, but it didn't change like a lot. There weren't many chords used out, and it was a repeated cycle, but like I do get what you mean, but it did then inspire. I just looked up when Eye of the Tiger was, because I thought it might have been inspiration for that, but I didn't want to say it if it was earlier, but it was a year later, so it does seem to be potentially inspired by that, and maybe other songs that have come previously with that kind of chugging guitar riff. Well, I wouldn't really call it a riff, but chugging guitar throughout.
16ths.
Yeah. Thank you. That's what it is. I will move on with that. It is a good song. You should definitely listen to it. Now, my fourth song is a musical that I managed to work in with this one.
A song in a musical.
Yeah. The song in the musical has the number incorporated into it, not the musical itself. I don't pick like 6 or something. The song I picked is the 10 Dual Commandments from Hamilton, which I'm sure a lot of people would know a lot more about than I do, but I still really like it. So, the musical, I didn't realise how early the musical premiered, because I only saw it on Disney Plus when it, like, maybe a month back or so. The premiere was 2015, and I forgot how early it was out, and it was a thing. If you don't know what Hamilton's about at this point, then I don't know what you're doing. But if you don't know, it is about one of the founding fathers of America that's not necessarily spoken about a lot, Alexander Hamilton, and it sort of has a more modern theme to it, with the like rapping used. Basically the whole musical is sung or rapped, which is kind of cool, but there's also other modern themes within it, like a lot of modern language is used, and like there's more modern nuances within the musical itself than just the rapping, which I think is really, really cool. And the whole musical itself, which is written by Lin-Manuel Miranda. It's pretty clever, the way that it's done. So this song is the first duel that happens, and it's educational because it teaches you about like how duels happened at the time. It was a very sort of formal process, which I didn't realise. And it also sets the scene and sort of foreshadows later events, which I'm not going to say because I don't want to spoil it. But the first duel between Laurens, who is one of Hamilton's friends, so it's seconded by Hamilton, which is why we hear Hamilton singing, and Lee, who's seconded by Burr, sort of Hamilton's rival. It's a bit of an interesting relationship, but I would say rival. But I think, yeah, the whole musical itself, as I said before, is very lyrically and musically kind of genius with the rapping and singing and everything, but it still managed to convey a cohesive and very educational and exceptional story, in my opinion.
Now this is the thing. I love rap. I don't like rap in musicals. And there is a reason for this, which is where my question comes in.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, I find, at the start I thought, okay, I could see a bit of Run DMC, a bit of rap rock in here. That's fine. I can roll with that. But then I thought, hang on a second, is it conforming to rap tropes? And so, therefore, like, my question is, it's like, do you think that the rap in the musical as a whole, and indeed in this song, is meant to be like a bridge between actual rap and musical rap? Or do you think they're trying to appeal to hip-hop heads? Maybe not like me, but like someone who knows a lot more about hip-hop than I do. Or people who don't like hip-hop as much, but prefer musicals. Is it maybe more appealing to musical lovers or to hip-hop lovers? Or is it somewhere between the two?
That is a really interesting question, and something I've never really thought about. Thinking about who I know that likes it, it tends to be people who aren't necessarily rap fans, that sort of enjoy the modern twist on a historical story. Or at least, I mean, personally for me, I'm a bit of a history buff, and I don't know much about like the American like discovery in air quotes of America and the colonization and everything. I don't know that much about it, and this was really interesting for me. And I think with the rap, I think it's a bit different because it's trying to like be rap and be sort of more modern, putting this modern twist on it, and with the sort of the sound effects as well, with the commandments being sort of like a rap battle, and also the cabinet battles are meant to be like rap battles. There's a lot of like dissing and like the sound effects and stuff, and it's the setting of it as well is meant to be like a rap battle. But it also needs to be a cohesive story to everyone and not just people who listen to rap. So it needs to be more sort of talking to music rather than rap in sort of its purest form, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I think in that respect it might not appeal to hardcore hip-hop fans. It's not proper rap, but it has to be understood by a wider audience.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that, and like I perfectly understand the appeal. I do. As much as I do criticize musicals on this podcast, like, that's just my own perspective, and that's not to say I'm right by any means. I'm probably very wrong, and I understand why musicals, especially Hamilton, have this appeal, because it has this crossover, and it has the history side, the singing side, the rapping side, and all that stuff. But when I come into it from an angle of someone who loves rap, I do think sometimes, hang on a second, are they just doing this to please musical lovers? And that's what kind of held me back from loving this song as much, I think, which is a shame, because I do want to like Hamilton, I do, but there's just always that niggling feeling in the back of my mind that just thinks...
Yeah, I mean, I think to resolve that, you need to watch the whole thing, because to go along with it, listening to one song in isolation, like this one, yes, it'll give you, a good insight into how the duels work, but you're like, in what context? When is this set? Like, why are they having a duel? Like, you need to watch the whole thing. I mean, first of all, listen to the whole thing to get the kind of story, but then watch it, because it's not only, with a musical, it's not only the music that makes a musical, like, it is a massive part of it, but it's also the staging, the costumes, the acting, you need to watch it to really get a feel for it, and a lot of the, I think maybe all of the duels had this amazing, I can't think of the exact technical term for it, but almost like a turning circle in the middle of the stage that went, so you could sort of see a lot of angles of it, and it was used so well that this is why I picked this one as well, because it sort of made it for me, like all of the exceptional staging and costumes and props and everything that went along with it. So you need to sort of watch it in context and also go in without any preconceptions. That's what I tried to do when I first watched it, because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like it, because it's sort of, it's rap, it's like not really my thing.
So essentially we both come into it from the opposite side.
Yeah.
So I've come into it with liking too much rap, and you come into it with not liking rap as much. So it's like, we kind of have the clash.
Yeah. And I mean, you have to go in without any preconceptions. Just be like, I'm going to sit down, watch this for the first time. I don't know what it's about. I don't know anything. I haven't heard anything from anyone, even if you have. Because that's the only way I felt like I could enjoy it. Was by not going in and going, oh, but there's rap in it. Oh, but it's not like traditional musical. Like, then I could appreciate the nuances and how clever it was.
Yeah, maybe I'm delving too much into the musical aspect, like the not the musical in terms of what its genre is, but the musical in terms of the song. Maybe I'm delving too much into that, and I think Hamilton is definitely on like my list of things that I know I need to see.
Yeah.
Just so I can, like, you know, well, first of all, stand up to one of my very good friends who is an absolute Hamilton obsessive, but but also just for, you know, maybe destroying my preconceptions of musicals and rap in musicals and stuff like that, and just giving it a fair shot.
So my final song is a Billie Eilish song that I don't know if many people have heard, because it was one of her really, really old ones, and it's called 6 Feet Under. So it was recorded in 2016 when she was, I think she just turned 15 around the time of recording, which is pretty impressive. But the whole song is written and produced by her brother Phineas, who also has his own music, and it is incredible, so go and listen to that. And he also put some additional vocals on the song. I think if you know her song Ocean Eyes, it's quite similar to that. It's a less dark than her newer stuff. It's sort of traditional old Billie Eilish with it's very atmospheric, very subdued and somber, and like with her understated voice. It's just a beautiful song. I couldn't tell you what it was about though. I tried looking it up. There was no indication of what it was about. It was just, I think it's less about that and more about the sound that she produces. Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, I actually closetly like Billie Eilish, and I really like this song. I absolutely love the production on this song. I think it's so smooth. Phineas knows what he's doing, I think.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And rather annoyingly, you've blown my question out of the water, because I was going to ask what you thought of, like, was it foreseeing Billie Eilish's future or earlier stuff? So, you know, you've answered that already.
Well, I don't know if... Yeah, I mean, like, lyrically, I don't know, obviously, what it's about. It's sort of, from what I'm getting, they're like, she's saying, our love is 6 feet under. It sounds sort of like your generic pop kind of love
I disagree.
Thing. Okay.
Do you know what the term 6 feet under... Do you know what the term 6 feet under is?
Yes.
It means buried in a grave.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so it's basically love being taken to the grave. That's very dark.
Well, yeah, but it's sort of become a phrase that people use in not a dark way by just saying it's sort of dead and buried and done. It's been taken, obviously, it's a dark thing at the root of it, but it's a phrase that's been taken sort of out of the darker context and used just to say that something's ended. But I think, I mean, to me, obviously this is up for interpretation, to me it does sound like generic pop lyrics, but with a Phineas twist. Like, a lot of metaphors and stuff used, but at the end of the day, to me, it does sound like a breakup sort of song lyrically, but the focus is on her vocals, the production, the sound that is created to make it sound different.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've noticed that obviously she's had quite a wide vocal range in this song, much wider than her later stuff. Like, yeah, I was a bit stunned. Obviously, like, personally, having not heard much of Eilish's older stuff, I didn't realise that was like, you know, I mean, obviously her range is going to be very wide, but I didn't realise that she exploited it as much as she did earlier on in her career.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't belt anything. Like, she doesn't have that sort of belting range. It's all very, like, dreamy and...
Subdued.
Yeah, exactly. However, I was very surprised when she did her Bond song, No Time to Die. She belted a really, really high note, sort of, in the... at the end of one of the choruses. And I was sort of taken aback, because I would never heard that from her before, but it was really good, and it just shows that she is very talented. A lot of people are like, oh, she just whisper sings, like, anyone can do that. And then she comes out with something like that, and you're like, well, no, not everyone can do that. She is very talented.
Yeah, Billie Eilish is a talent.
A lot of people are like, oh, don't like Billie Eilish, because it's cool to like Billie Eilish. But there's a reason it's cool to like Billie Eilish. It's because she's really cool and really talented, and she deserves the recognition that she's got, especially at such a young age.
She's got 1 billion streaming song on Spotify, maybe 2, and I'm here, well, making a very enjoyable podcast, but still, not making millions every week.
Yeah, no, she definitely deserves what she's got. And I remember watching an interview that she did and saying that for her it's a sort of multi-sensory experience to like her, because she creates a lot of cool visuals within music videos and stuff, and a very like atmospheric sound. So it's creating an experience rather than like just the music for her, which I thought was really, really cool. Yeah, so that's my list complete.
Now we move on to my incomplete list. Or incomplete list, rather. So I have a mixture of songs which I think are quite well known and also ones which are less well known. And that is the category which my first song falls under. It's 20K by Pegboard Nerds. I brought them up on the podcast before with the song Pink Cloud, obviously when we did Colours a couple of weeks back. But whilst Pink Cloud was very much like a kind of safe option for me, this one was number 1 on my list for a very, very good reason. For what, I don't know why, but I have absolutely loved it ever since I heard it like a couple of years back. And it's just an absolute headbanger, and it has a sense of character to me. So it was released in 2013 on their Lost Tracks EP, and it's a drum step song with a quick pace, and there is really no other true purpose, I think, other than to be a massive crowd pleaser. I'm not gonna lie, but I just love listening to it, and especially the vocal samples, which are actually taken from a speech in the 1979 film Warriors by the character Cyrus, which I didn't actually realise until looking up information about this song in research for the podcast. But it was also made in celebration of the Nerds hitting 20,000 subscribers on their YouTube channel. So what a way to celebrate it, I think, with an absolute jam of a song. But I'm pretty certain it might not be the same the other way around.
Yeah, I didn't really like it.
No.
To me,
I expected.
So, I mean, I'm not gonna just come on and like slate it. However, I will do exactly that right now. It just seems like, to me, listening to it, it just seemed like a lot of unnecessary noise. Don't know, like, that's just how I felt listening to it. And I felt like the vocal samples didn't really fit sort of the theme of the song, if that makes sense. To me, I just sort of felt like they were shoved in sort of for the sake of it, which they might have been if it was like a crowd pleaser. They
probably are there for the sake of it. Like, I don't think, especially the speech in the second half, I really don't think there is any purpose to it. But I just smile every time the lyrics come on. Like, for me, it just makes me smile, and I think that's why I love it so much, because as much as I don't like EDM that's really simple and or a massive noise, at least this one to me has like a kind of melody to it, and also it just puts a massive smile on my face every time, as I say.
Yeah, I'm sure. The question I did have though, the only bit that I sort of didn't mind was like the very beginning, and there was a bit in the middle where it almost sounded like it had sort of Middle Eastern influences with this the intervals used. I wondered where that came from. It didn't seem like it fitted, but I did like it. But I wondered where that would have come from.
I don't really think there are many other songs where the nerds themselves have used this kind of Middle Eastern influence that you infer. Potentially in the song Try This, but not quite sure. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's definitely like got this kind of it's very anticipatory, I think, the opening. It kind of sets you up for something, but then
that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it kind of does get blown out of the water a little bit.
That's sort of how I felt about it, yeah.
Yeah, as much as I love 20,000 hardcore members, Sarah clearly does not. But I have a feeling, I could be very wrong, but you might have liked, as will obviously you guys. Don't forget, of course, well, with my next song. But don't forget, of course, we are collating all the songs that we mentioned, as we always do, into a Spotify playlist, which you'll find on the Facebook post that we do, and or in the description of the YouTube video, which we have provided. So go and give that a listen, and listen to all the songs, and form your own opinions, as we always tell you to do every single week. But my second song is the song 19-2000, the Soul Child remix by Gorillaz. Now, I really like the original. I do really like the original, but I'm picking the poppy remix over it. But it's quite ironic, actually, that there is an upbeat pop remix of this song, because the lyrics are comments on the ever-changing trends in society, and that time is moving way too quickly for 2D, the lead singer of Gorillaz, obviously that being Damon Albarn, to cope with. And they also subtly imply people who blindly follow trends in later lyrics, an idea which Gorillaz have always rejected, especially with shallow lyrics, as they used the slogan in their earlier times of reject false icons. But they sent their album over to Soul Child, the producers of the remix, and told them to remake one of the songs to give it a mainstream and crossover appeal. And they chose this song because Hewlett, the other member of Gorillaz, who is the more visual creator, the one who does all the animated music videos, said that he was doing a music video for this song. And I absolutely love the kind of the bouncy nature, even though obviously I probably shouldn't, because, well, it's a bit ironic that it exists. I just find it as a massive jam, and it's, again, really fun. Plus, it was the flagship song for FIFA 2002, although it was not the reason why I found out about this song, nor the reason why I liked the song in the first place. It's just a great fun song to listen to, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. That's really, I don't know, because I like the original, and I prefer the original, and having, obviously, if they told him to do that kind of more mainstream remix of their song, then fine, but I like Gorillaz because they don't have that mainstream sound. They just make stuff that sounds good to them and makes them happy and comes like from the heart rather than trying to sell out. So I just didn't really think that, when I heard this, I was surprised that it had that sort of upbeat poppiness to it. But I really like the original. I think it sounds cool. I don't know.
Yeah, I love the original as well. Like, I love both of them, and I very easily could have picked either or. But I also thought it'd be kind of cool to just talk about the remix in itself, because it is quite ironic in the fact, as I say, that there is one.
Okay, well, that kind of answered my question of, well, I just wondered why you picked this over the original. Why, like, if it was a close call, what tipped you over the edge to pick that one?
Well, realistically, like, I remember there was a time when I first heard this song about 5 years ago or so, and I'd heard them both, obviously, but there was a time for it must have been about a few weeks, where I could not stop listening to this song. It would be on repeat frequently, and maybe that was a kind of nascent love for the Gorillaz at that point, and not really knowing what they were about completely, but then delving more into their discography and listening to not all of their albums, but nearly all their albums, and most of the Song Machine stuff that they've done over the last few months, most of which is absolutely excellent. But I just think I gel with it so much when I first listened to it. So, whereas I didn't have quite the same intense gelling with it as I did with the original as I did with the remix. But that's not to say that I don't love the original. I do, but for me, for whatever reason, I just loved the pop remix massively for like a few weeks. So I guess it stuck out to me more from a personal level as opposed to a musical level. Although undoubtedly the music in the original is much better because it fits the overall tone of the song.
Yeah, I think that's why I preferred it to the remix version. It just sort of fits better. But I understand why this exists, and I understand more behind it now than I did before. So Thank you.
Well, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. Yeah, that's my second one. My third one is, I'm going to put it out there. This might be a very controversial statement, but it's my favourite Queen song of all time. It's not their best, but it is my favourite Queen song, and it's the song 39 from the album A Night at the Opera. It's one of the few Brian May fronted Queen songs, and it tells the story of space pioneers who set off in some 39 year, probably 1939, on an intrepid voyage into space. But although they only age a year as a result of the time dilation effects, 100 Earth years pass before they return. So you get the first instance of 39 being the volunteers who go off into space, and then they restart the second verse with the same in the year of 39, but they use obviously the century on 39 as opposed to the first 39, which I didn't quite click until recently. But for whatever reason, it's always just stuck with me as one of my favourite Queen song, because I've loved the sound of it. But also, very fun fact is that May joked to John Deacon, the bassist of Queen, asking if he could play the double bass on the song, before he returned to the studio a couple of days later to find that Deacon had actually fully learned it, and so the double bass, as opposed to a bass guitar, is used in the song. But,
cool.
Fun fact about the song 39.
Yeah, I hadn't heard this, and it's weird to think that this was the same time as, like, Bohemian Rhapsody, to me.
This is the same album.
It literally is, it was weird, because they have such a different sound. But no, I really like this. It's sort of, at the opening, you have your classic Queen chords. They just sound very, very Queen. But then, I guess throughout the verses and choruses, they had this very cyclic chord progression, and I was like, I don't know how much more I can deal with this. But as soon as I got to that point, it went back to these weird chords that Queen tend to use, and I was like, oh, okay, that's back in it now. I'm back in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just thought, I didn't really have a question for this one, but I also thought it was a really interesting story concept. I don't know if you have any insight on how they sort of came up with it.
Well, Brian May actually, I'm probably going to get this wrong, the finite details, but May actually he studied some form of science.
He's a physicist,
at university. Yeah, he was a physicist.
Yeah.
So he is obviously really interested in this kind of the space-time dilation effect. And so wrote this science fiction song, basically being like, oh, this is this. What we can do, we can make a science fiction song about some space pioneers going away for a century. But also, as I say, it's something that he'd been really interested in and wanted to write about for a while. And on an album as varied and widespread as A Night at the Opera, it kind of fits in with that wacky, zany feel that they were going for, I think. And so with that in mind, you have this song about a time dilation effect, essentially. Who comes up with a song about a time dilation effect? I don't think I'm going to see any rappers over the next few years come out with something like that. I could be wrong, and if I am, I'd be more than happy to be. But there's probably something else that I missed off whilst doing my research and have subsequently forgotten.
No, I didn't expect you to know, but obviously, I forgot that he's studied physics, so obviously he's going to be interested in that kind of thing. Then what's your opinion then on songs with lyrics about a made-up story versus a real experience? What do you think about songs that make up a story or have a very magical story that wouldn't exist versus a song that talks about a very real experience that maybe they or someone they know have experienced?
I don't mind either. I love real stories in songs, obviously, provided it has some kind of meaning or just some fun, enjoyable atmosphere to it. And even with this kind of, because it's so fantastical, it's so outlandish and something that again hasn't really been explored, and that's why I think in this instance I love it so much, because it's so out there. But with the just songs that are based on made up stories. I mean, most songs are based on made up stories. Most songs that go in the pop charts are based on kind of made up stories. So if there's like, you know, something special about it, something that clicks in my head, I will find it really enjoyable. And for some reason, this song clicked in my head and I grew to love it. That's my third choice. My fourth is probably my most well, let's say controversial, but certainly the one that might raise the most eyebrows. But I'm gonna again say it yet again. We're going into more hot takes. Linkin Park are unashamedly one of my favourite bands, and the song I'm going for is, of course, as you might have maybe guessed, One Step Closer. We're moving back into emo rock with perhaps the song that put me right back into that scene, alongside their other song from Meteora, Breaking the Habit. I didn't actually realise this, because I thought it was about some kind of dark turn of events for Bennington. But in truth, it's actually a riposte to their producer, Don Gilmore, who kept on telling Mike Shinoda, the other lyricist of Linkin Park, and Chester Bennington, to change their lyrics all the time. With apparently once, without even reading the lyrics, he told Bennington to just change them straight away. So the anger at the chorus and bridge is basically Bennington's denial of having a say in matters, from what I can gather. And of course, it is kind of, you know, typical early Linkin Park, very angry, very aggressive, very distorted, you know, pioneering things like nu metal and screamo and shouty, that kind of stuff. But I think they combine it really, really well. And of course, it's essentially a diss track of their producer, which just makes it all the better.
Yeah, I mean, I really like this song. I've liked the song for quite a while now. But I didn't know the true meaning behind the song and the reason that they wrote it. Obviously, there's like a lot of angst behind it, so I assumed the same thing that you did, which I think was a safe assumption to have.
It's a safe assumption with Linkin Park.
Yeah, exactly. But what I thought was really interesting was the fact that it has vague enough lyrics that the song can be up to interpretation, because obviously a lot of listeners aren't really gonna go into the history of Linkin Park and like read the story behind every single song.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like I just thought it was kind of interesting that it was vague enough to be up to interpretation and not like, oh, we don't like you keep telling us to change your lyrics. It was like actually like more vague, so people can interpret it how they want.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing with me. Like, I originally thought maybe it's to do with like something maybe it's to do with like a friend or something that's kind of falling apart, or something along those lines, or maybe not being able to seek support, or people telling him the wrong things to help him get better. I that was what I kind of thought of it originally.
Yeah.
And now I know the actual meaning of it. I wouldn't say it's got an entirely different a different listen to me. I still feel the same way as I do every time. Like, I want to throw things at the TV and drink Monster Energy and stuff. But we're not sponsored. But I still really enjoy just the song as a whole. And Linkin Park have just been someone that a band that I absolutely love for a long time. With this kind of song that can be interpreted in the way that Linkin Park normally do their songs about, but then actually having the deeper meaning of being completely the opposite end of the spectrum, which makes it all the better.
I guess in terms of like the way we've interpreted it versus the actual meaning, both still have the same feeling of like frustration and anger that they sort of portray. Like I guess that's like the reason that you maybe feel, even though learning the new meaning, that's the reason that you still feel the same about the song, is because it still has the same level of angst and anger and frustration. Yeah,
it still has the same like ferocity about it. So yeah, I guess that's why maybe I like it so much. And again, you can maybe call me a simple head for liking Linkin Park, but that's fine. More than up to you. And again, you can form your own opinion on the song itself if you haven't listened to it already. That's my number 4. My number 5 is, I don't know if I kind of had in my mind that I wasn't going to include like songs with, you know, parts or number of symphonies or something like that. But then I've got to tell Sarah, and I kind of just said that I'm breaking my own rules, despite the fact I didn't even say what the rules were by accident. But it is the Monstercat live performance for their 3-year anniversary, and the title is Monstercat Live Performance 3-year anniversary, in case you're wondering where the number comes in. So this is essentially a celebration of, understandably, 3 years since the inception of my favourite record label, Monstercat, with the artist Didrik putting it all together, this was done back in 2014. And it combined 78 songs across Monstercat's discography to that point, all in one, including loads of classics, including one that I mentioned a few weeks back in Razor Sharp, and as well as songs which I absolutely love, such as Next Big Thing, Till It's Over, and Bad Pitched, amongst many, many others. And at the end, there is an amazing guitar solo, in my opinion, which wraps up the song really well. And it makes it a really cool fusion between the electronic sound and the real sound. But they also did a live music video where they have all the people performing the song. So they have an actual brass band in the middle. They have a drummer, they have a pianist, they have a launchpad person, and then they have the guitarist doing the solo at the end. So I thought that was a really cool addition to it, especially because by that point Monstercat hadn't really done many live videos, so I thought that was quite a cool addition to the song.
With that context, it makes more sense. However, I just didn't really like it that much as a song by itself. It just seemed everything, now you've explained it and it makes sense, but everything just seemed very out of place with each other, like all the different vocal samples, and like, for me, you can do really well a combination of live and electronic. I just, for me, didn't think it worked. Like, both elements were, like, everything singularly was pretty good. But all together just seemed like a bit of a mess, in my opinion.
There are some samples which I do admit do seem a tiny bit out of place. There are some which you could be like, yeah, you can remove this and it wouldn't really change anything. But when you're someone like me, like, obviously you get the perspective of just this song, whereas and that's not to say that you're uneducated at all. That's not saying that at all. But for someone who has listened to Monstercat realistically for about 5-6 years and knows a lot of the songs that are brought up in this collaboration or fusion, if you like, I think that it works a lot better when you get the overall context. Like, I think when you have that kind of, when you have the fusion and you have the history behind it, like the knowledge of Monstercat, I think that means that's why I enjoy it perhaps a lot more than you did.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just think for some of them, like some of the samples, there was a better way to make them fit into the song. And like I do, as I said, as you've explained it to me, it makes more sense why there are so many different things, but I think there was a way to make them a bit more cohesive.
Yes, there are definitely, as I say, there are definitely some which just seem, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But in my opinion, I'd say that there are a load more clever links and cool, like, transitions from one song into the other than there are bad.
Yeah.
And maybe again I'm being biased, but I'm not going to say, like, go and listen to every single one of the songs in the disc that is mentioned in the song, because I don't know all of them personally, and I can't even make out where some of the songs feature. It's difficult to put an accurate finger on, like, oh, this is right, but from again, someone who knows a lot about it, I just thought a lot of the transitions worked really well. But again, that could be subjectivity. It could just be blind allegiance to a record label, which, if the Gorillaz would have it, I'd probably be prosecuted. But that's just my take on it. That's my take. So that's my overall list of songs with numbers in the title. And I did kind of expect Sarah not to really enjoy them, I'm not gonna lie. But maybe I'll come back next week with a lot stronger material. But I just say that all my songs are great, go and listen to them. But in terms of, like, ones which you may like, I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you didn't like a lot of mine as well, so it was balanced, I'd say.
Yeah, but it was balanced in the wrong way.
Yeah.
We both need to work on that front. We need to work on that for next time.
Yeah. So now we're moving on to our question, which was from Maddie. So thanks again, Maddie. You've given us quite a few really good questions. And this one I think is particularly interesting. And it's what artist's story, in brackets, personally or musically, has been most inspiring to you, and why?
It is an interesting one. I mean, I kind of half struggled with this one because it's difficult to, like, explain this kind of thing. But I think I've come up with ones which to me make sense. And the musical one, I know it's a really, really basic answer to pick my favourite musician, but I have to go with Haywire. He started out with this really ambient electronic music that was really, like, well produced, obviously, but it wasn't really like anything stand out, jump out special. It was kind of just ambient, something you could put on whilst doing work or something like that. And then signed to the label Monster Cat, like, he develops his sound and then finds that balance between the two. And then he incorporates with songs like Insight, Endlessly, he incorporates his piano playing abilities, that, his jazz taught piano skills that he's had, and classical influence piano as well. So he brings that into his music, and it's constantly trying to find a sound, and he does so on the EP Twofold Part 2, which he achieves brilliantly. And then again it's a further expansion on his style with after leaving Monster Cat, with putting out 2 more EPs, incorporating vocoders as well as 16-bar piano solos in the middle of those songs, and also doing 2 just solely piano songs. One on Twofold Part 2 in Transient, which I've mentioned before, and one on the EP Panorama Form, I believe, in Blind Faith. So, all of that kind of evolution, for me, makes him stand out a lot in terms of a development. You can hunt me down all you want as, like, they're my favourite musicians, but I hope I've argued my case relatively convincingly.
But I think those are maybe the reasons that they become your favourite musicians, because of those stories, in a way.
Yeah, possibly.
I, again, kind of struggle with this. I don't have anyone who's inspired me in a personal way. Just because when I'm listening to music, I'm very, like, I will sort of just focus on the music and not really their personal stories. I don't know, I'm just not really that interested. Unless it affects their music in some way, then obviously I am. But I think, their personal life is their personal life. Unless they, like, it affects their music, I just don't really take my time to research how someone grew up and stuff. But then I thought, musical story, I did struggle with this for a while, but then I suddenly thought of someone that I used to hate, and then I liked-ish, and now I really, really love the stuff that she produces. And this is Willow. This is really surprising. Okay, hear me out. Bit of a weird rogue choice, but obviously a lot of people know Willow. This is Willow Smith, by the way, if you don't know. Will Smith's daughter. A lot of people know Whip My Hair, which is probably the worst song in existence. I'm not going to lie to you, but she was so young when that happened. She was, 9 or 10 when that song came out? She was incredibly young, but I think if you've heard any of her more recent stuff, the journey that she's taken, if you just go through her Spotify, pick one song from each album, each single that's been released, you'll hear such a difference over the 10 years that she's been making music. It's actually insane. And now she produces this sort of, like, edgy, artsy, feminist music. And it sounds incredible. I never thought I'd say that. Having listened to Whip My Hair religiously as a child, to the point where I actually got a neck injury from whipping my hair, and then hated her from then on and wanted to sue her.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah, it's pretty funny stuff.
You headbanged to Pantera, not to Willow.
I didn't headbang, I whipped my hair, okay, as the song title suggests.
I'm sorry, I apologise.
And then a lot of people know the song, there's a song, Wait a Minute, which was sort of popularised by TikTok, but that was released in 2015, and that sort of has, for me, like, so it's the perfect sort of transitional song, because it's quite poppy, but it also has the sort of indie vibes to it. And then by the time she released her album Willow EP Willow, in 2019, she's completely changed to this sort of artsy, feminist, empowerment music. That's the word I'm looking for. And I think it's incredible. But as soon as I said Willow, Harry's face was like, I'm sorry, what? Okay, what now? But I'm guessing it's because you know her for Whip My Hair.
No, I knew that she'd done, like, more stuff. I knew that she'd done that because I've seen, you know, a couple of people listening to it on Spotify or whatever, but I didn't I didn't know like quite the development that she had gone through. But yes, obviously I've heard Whip My Hair, regrettably, and I can understand like the development that she will need to undergo to try and remove herself from that image of that song. So I perfectly understand it. But as you say, when it's a choice that, like, for me especially, came completely out of the blue, I was not expecting that at all. I was just a bit like, wait, am I hearing things? Is that really true?
I mean, no, it was a shock to me as well when I was like thinking, but I was like, what artists do I enjoy? And I was thinking like maybe like Panic at the Disco because they've been on a big change, but I wouldn't say the change was inspiring. I just say they changed with the time. But I think the fact that she's changed up her image completely and removed herself from Whip My Hair, but it also comes along with the fact that she was very young when she released that song, and she has physically and emotionally and mentally changed so much in those 10 years than an artist who maybe was 20 and is now 30. There's a bigger change from being a child to becoming an adult. Reinventing herself has come from the fact that those years are the years that you change the most. So it's allowed her to change more, but she has become a very inspiring person, I guess. Now we move on to the songs that we've been listening to this week. My first song, I'm always a bit tentative whether to include songs that my friends have released, because it always just seems like I'm plugging their songs because they're my friend, but I actually have been listening to this song a lot over the past week, and it's a song called I'm a Woman, and it's by Verity Stroud. She produces some amazing music, so obviously go and listen to all of it, but I really like this song because it's just a really good representation of everyday struggles of just being a woman, and I really like it. It's just, the recorded version is just her and piano, and it worked so well live with a band, but I think the piano version, the real stripped back version, in my opinion, is a lot more powerful. It really gets the message across of the song, and she has an incredibly powerful voice. My next song is a new release by an artist called Youngblood, which I don't know if you know, but it's a song called Strawberry Lipstick. It's sort of his his typical style of like angsty Brit kind of vibe, and it's Youngblood through and through. It's just really good. And my final song is another new release by an artist called Troye Sivan, and it's a song called Easy, and it's just nice chill pop. I think his vocals are like heavily auto-tuned, but I think it goes along with the style pretty well. I think that was done on purpose. I don't think it was obviously to make him in tune, it was just to give him that chill pop vibe sound. So yeah, that's what I've been listening to this week.
So my list, I sadly don't have any pirate metal,
No.
which I'm sure you're all very sad to hear. I sadly don't have any diss tracks about pirate ships this week. So my first song is another new release by the rapper Bugsy Malone called MEN3. As you might have seen, back in March, he was involved in a really, really dangerous motorcycle crash where he had really bad face injuries and he could have died. And then a few weeks later, he had a blood clot in his chest, and the doctor said that he wasn't going to live. So this song is essentially a documentation of his struggles during this time and the kind of Lazarus-like resurrection that he's experiencing right now. And to say that he's able to, release such a song and walk again properly after just 4 months after such a horrendous incident is, quite simply put, incredible. And I think the song actually is really, really good. My second one is one that came up on my Discover Weekly playlist, actually, on Spotify. Something I tune in with here and there. But it's the song Illmerica by Wolfgang Gartner, which is an EDM kind of progressive house song. If you're trying to think of something that I could link you to him, he's a little bit like Deadmau5 in a way, is that there's no bona fide drop. It's kind of just well produced and melodic EDM. So that's something which I really grew to like straight away because that's my flavour of EDM that I absolutely love. My third one is a song which I actually rediscovered this week, which I'd heard on a video game soundtrack before, but kind of neglected for a while, and it's Patience by Bad Sons. I've really liked this song. It's really, guitar driven, but it has the really subdued vocals, and I really, really like it. Why are you gaping mouth?
Because they did one of my favourite songs. I was just like, where have I heard this artist before? And they did a song called Cardiac Arrest, which I almost included in my first, what I'd been listening to this week, like the first song that we did, because I really like it. Sorry.
No, I was just, look, Sarah just like, honestly, I said Bad Sons and her eyes just lit up. And I'm just like, wait, what? How is this happening?
Yeah, they're really good.
But yeah, I've on the game which it comes from, Forza Horizon 3, it works so well when you're driving around. And I forgot how good a song it was, so I've been listening to that. And you will be very, very surprised with this one, because I rediscovered this after playing Burnout Paradise over the last couple of days. And it is Camille Saint-Saëns' Carnival of the Animals, The Aquarium. I absolutely...
That's my favourite!
Yeah, I
really
absolutely loved the Carnival of the Animals as a kid, and I completely forgot how good it was. And I checked the soundtrack because I forgot what songs were on it, and I was like, oh my god! The aquarium's on here. So I played it and I'm just like, right, let's go and tear up some stuff and go and do some mad stunts with the aquarium playing in the background. But it's so whimsical and beautiful, piano-driven led. Oh, it's just a blissful song. So probably my first actual proper classical inclusion in any of my lists of some kind.
It's a good choice as well.
And yeah, I had to make it a worthwhile one, and it's a pretty good choice.
Yeah.
So that is my list of all the stuff that I've been listening to over this week, and that means, as a result of that we are concluded for this week's episode. Well, actually, it's this week's, and also, well, the first episode of this week, and the second episode is going to come a bit later.
Yeah.
But that is this particular episode done. Of course, we will be back, as I say, on Sunday, when we will have a proper, well, another episode up, but we will be back for sure on Sunday this time. We can 100% promise you that, but we really hope that you've enjoyed this week's edition. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time,
We'll see you then.